The criminal trial of one of the most influential people in entertainment history has officially begun. On a tense morning in a packed federal courtroom in New York, music mogul Sean Diddy Combs, once the king of hip-hop glamour, stood before the judge and quietly admitted, "I'm a little nervous." Diddy is facing numerous severe criminal allegations, including sex trafficking. They were conspiring and racketeering, and now the jury selection procedure has started slow and deliberate. The sessions of today produced three significant developments. Prosecutors first verified what many had conjectured. Behind closed doors, they made Diddy an offer of a plea bargain. However, it was completely rejected by the man who built an empire on self-assurance. No bargain. He wants to go to court to dispute this. Wait. Second, legal professionals are focusing on the actual jury selection procedure. The real trial before the trial, as one former federal prosecutor put it. Why? Because in a case this combustible, selecting the correct jury might make all the difference. Then followed the unexpected turn of events. Did his defense team just bolster their ranks with formidable legal firepower? Here comes Banu, the same lawyer who helped Johnny Depp win his well-known defamation case against Amber Heard. That Banu, indeed. Word got around the courtroom. The courtroom. This changes the game, a seasoned court reporter was heard to say. Jury selection, meantime, is proceeding quickly, almost brutally. 167 prospective jurors were brought in over the course of 2 days. 49 were quickly dismissed. Nearly 100 yes or no questions were thrown at the surviving hopefuls. What is the source of their news? How do they feel about celebrities? What do people think about Diddy personally? Some acknowledged their inability to maintain objectivity. Some admitted to being uncomfortable simply by being in the room. Only 35 individuals remained in the running to serve on this historic jury by the third day. And every response counts because both sides are approaching this like psychological warfare. Prosecutors and defense lawyers are analyzing every word, every pause, and every anxious look behind the scenes. This goes beyond simply choosing jurors. It's about laying the groundwork for one of the most important trials in the history of pop culture. Without a doubt, this trial has the power to define the legacy of a man who was once untouchable. One of the most unpredictable wild cards in recent legal history is the jury pool for Sean Diddy Combs' federal trial. It is an American mosaic. Men and women from a variety of backgrounds, including graphic designers, doctors, pensioners, and hardworking social workers and factory workers. Some are just about to turn 35. Some people are in their 80s, and they have an equally varied diet of information. Everything from underground blogs and old-school newspapers to TikTok scrolls and YouTube hot takes. This jury selection is a ticking time bomb because of the disorganized media mix. These are folks who are continuously inundated with criticism on celebrity culture on social media, headlines, and opinions. And that kind of clamor might permeate the courtroom at a trial like this, where Diddy is accused of sex trafficking, racketeering, and other offenses. Consider Dr. Umar Johnson's latest outburst, which went viral. Despite not being a party to the case, his passionate support of Diddy is already igniting controversy on the internet. His live feed has been shared thousands of times after he yelled, "This man is being dragged back into court after settling with Cassie." He continued saying, "I don't blame Puffy for asking for a delay. He's lost a key lawyer. He's got a new team. Of course, they need time to prepare. The man's in jail with no bail. That's already a violation. She took the money. Case closed. This is lawfare, plain and simple. Excessive, abusive, and wrong." Legal analysts say this jury could make or break the trial before a single piece of evidence is shown because Umar's voice is loud and being heard by the same people who are now being vetted to decide his fate. Meanwhile, the judge is focusing on the final 12 jurors and 6 alternates from that dwindling pool of 35 potential jurors. To put it bluntly, however, this is not some gaudy celebrity defamation lawsuit. Rather, it is a federal lawsuit against one of the most influential music moguls of our time. 5 major charges, no bail, and a complex criminal scheme allegedly connected to drugs, sex, manipulation, and the kind of power that rarely makes it to a courtroom. Here is where the storm really starts to build. Rumors say Cassie Ventura did his ex, and the woman at the center of years of rumors and conjecture may be entering the witness box. The stakes are extremely high, and every day, headline, and tweet is another ripple that threatens to change the outcome of a trial that could define the future of celebrity accountability in America. The judge brought in legal titan Ben Chew because he realized that if this trial goes against Sean Diddy Combs, he could be facing more than just a fall from grace. If that occurs and she lays everything out, it could be the last nail in the coffin. Chew didn't hold back when he said, "This isn't a civil spat about defamation. This is federal. It's criminal. It's dark and it's dangerous." You may recall him as the tough lawyer who helped Johnny Depp pull off a courtroom comeback for the ages against Amber Heard. When a scandal this explosive lands in a courtroom, jury selection turns into a psychological warfare exercise. Private investigators are probably searching through jurors' digital footprints, public records, and social media accounts, looking for anything that might raise suspicions. Did juror number 5 Google Diddy last night? Did juror number 9 tweet something inflammatory? If so, his team will discover it. You're not just picking people, you're digging into them. And yes, did his team have the funds to do it? And here's the unexpected twist. People don't want to serve on this jury. This is unusual because most high-profile trials draw potential jurors like moths to a flame, some interested, some desperate for their 15 minutes. However, this one is different. People are quickly withdrawing, and the reason is that it's not a gossip case. Benju stated bluntly, "This isn't celebrity entertainment. This is criminal justice in its rawest form." The accusations, trafficking, coercion, and exploitation are chilling. The kind of stuff that stays with you long after the trial is over. Even Diddy, who was once the epitome of power and control, appeared visibly tense in court. In the shadows of a tense New York courtroom, the federal government is laying out a case that reads more like a dark Hollywood script than real life. His hair is now graying, and his usual swagger has diminished. Behind the tailored suit, the weight of a life is unraveling. The second day of jury selection has already filled the air with unease. 12 jurors, 6 alternates, and the fate of a mogul hanging by a thread. Jurors are now being warned that what lies ahead could be graphic, disturbing, and unlike anything they've ever experienced. Prosecutors claim that Shah Diddy Combs, long regarded as a music mogul and cultural icon, used his fame, wealth, and influence to lure young women into what they described as drug-fueled freak-offs, twisted parties marked by manipulation, control, and silence. And many have already acknowledged they have seen headlines, heard the rumors, and even seen the now infamous hotel surveillance footage, grainy but unmistakable, showing Combs violently knocking his then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura to the ground, kicking her, look at the ground, and dragging her across the floor of a Los Angeles hotel back in 2016. Each potential juror was given a straightforward questionnaire that openly stated they may be exposed to sexually explicit videos, photos, and unsettling language. The judge requires jurors who can set aside their emotions, at least long enough to complete their work, but it's not easy. One woman said that it was quite distressing to see, but she added something telling, "I don't know the full story, so I can still listen to the facts." Cass's name is just the start. Diddy's cultural shadow is present, and many members of the jury pool are already familiar with him. Some from his days on reality TV, others from his successful music career in the 1990s. Benchu, the well-known attorney who was recently added to Diddy's defense team, provided a behind-the-scenes look. In a surprising turn of events, he also hinted that the defense may secretly prefer more men on the panel, not because women aren't fair, but because the delicate nature of the allegations might resonate more personally with female jurors, clouding neutrality. High neutrality. He claims that the defense is likely seeking younger jurors, not because of age, but because younger people may be more desensitized to explicit content, more open-minded to complex narratives, and less rattled by raw testimony. Every face in the jury box could mean the difference between freedom and a life in prison, so his team isn't just choosing jurors, they're betting everything on human nature. Now that the final group is being selected, everyone is watching, wondering who will ultimately decide this man's future. Putting a famous person on the witness stand is always a risk. However, this case is different. When Johnny Depp took that risk, it worked because, according to his legal team, he was unwavering in his truth and had to speak because he was the plaintiff and had the burden of proof. Skurov. To be honest, his lawyers said that even if they had wanted to stop him, they couldn't have. The stakes change significantly when you're advising Sean Viddy Cummings. The disturbing, grainy, but damning video of him assaulting Cassie Ventura in a hotel hallway is a powerful blow. Now the pressure is on. Will he testify? Will he attempt to justify it? According to an experienced lawyer involved in the case, he must. The courtroom drama took an unexpected turn when the judge asked Ben Chu, the same legal guru who helped Johnny Depp win over America, to share his thoughts on jury selection. He must own it, express regret, and persuade the jury that it was a moment of weakness rather than a pattern, because if he remained silent, it could be heard louder than any defense. Diddy was incensed, according to sources, and reportedly exploded behind closed doors, demanding to know why his team hadn't been alerted beforehand. His attorneys were also taken aback, not anticipating this, and there is now mounting concern in his camp as to whether Ben's brief appearance in court tipped the scales. Who sits in those 12 chairs matters more than ever in this case. So will his voice reverberate in the jury room? Ben candidly shared his opinion, saying, "You want jurors who want to be there," he said. "People drawn to celebrity, to the drama. It could work in your favor. It could work in your favor." He also reiterated a recurring theme. The defense probably favors men. Younger jurors are a plus, while older jurors are less predictable and possibly less forgiving. What about media consumption? Unless they're constantly glued to law and crime, it's not a deal breaker, Ben said. This isn't because men support violence, but rather because they might react less viscerally to the sensitive material in this case. The real maneuvering starts on Friday, when both legal teams use their peremptory strikes, each one a chess move in the high-stakes game of jury selection. In a trial that is already tense, jury selection has turned into a drama unto itself, with every move being scrutinized. In fact, if they follow pop culture, TMZ Rolling Stone, that might be a good sign. Potential jurors are being kicked out one by one, and some of the reasons are causing people to wonder. For example, the woman who worked at HBO was fired before she could even say her name. The reason was straightforward. HBO just released a shocking documentary that delves deeply into the sinister accusations made against Shah the Diddy Combas. But the contradictions don't end there. Another potential juror, this time from the Legal Aid Society, a group that defends criminal suspects, didn't reveal the information up front, and when it did, many expected the judge to take action. That connection, however indirect, was all it took to send her packing. Ben Chu, the same lawyer who helped Johnny Depp win his high-profile trial, is now closely monitoring how his team navigated this legal minefield. Instead, the court decided that their responses were acceptable, and they are staying. This uneven scrutiny is adding fuel to the fire, with rumors about how impartial this jury pool is actually growing louder. But because jury consultants are digging deep, creating detailed psychological profiles to find jurors who might be more receptive or at least neutral toward a man already seen as guilty. Ben says this stage of the trial could make or break the entire defense. He thinks it's wise for even seasoned attorneys to rely heavily on their jury consultants. However, when the stakes are this high, defendants often want some say in who might hold their future in their hands. So sources say Diddy isn't just sitting there silently. Rather, he's been actively signaling his preferences by nodding, frowning, and even shaking his head as certain jurors are questioned. It's unusual but not unheard of. The now famous 2016 hotel video, which CNN aired, shows Diddy brutally assaulting Cassie Ventura. Although he later apologized, prosecutors contend that the video is only the beginning of a decades-long pattern of cruelty, coercion, and manipulation. A wall of silence, no names, no details, and complete anonymity for the jury have been imposed by the court due to the explosive nature of this case. In a trial such as this, secrecy may be the only protection left. Prosecutors claim that beneath the velvet curtains of celebrity excess, a much darker world was at work. These were not the glamorous, champagne-soaked parties that the public had envisioned. Rather, they were something much darker. According to authorities, they were planned, drug-fueled events that Diddy dubbed free coughs, but don't be fooled by the name. The charges say that these events were planned like clandestine operations to exploit, manipulate, and silence women who were not invited guests, but rather, as prosecutors say, unwilling participants cornered into a twisted web of coercion and control, with Diddy allegedly at the center. Featuring hidden cameras, male sex workers, and women who never consented to be filmed. With people coming and going at all hours and the unwritten rule that what happens here never leaves here, the events could go on for days. Now someone who is present is breaking the code of silence. Chopper, a former artist from Disorbit, is revealing details in a way that is drawing attention. "I was just Chopper," he says, still sounding shocked that he was even invited into those rooms. What? He describes the atmosphere as one of unspoken pressure rather than luxury. Big names. Real celebrities, household icons were there. His account isn't polished, it's raw, and that's what makes it so unsettling. This was not simply careless partying. Women were apparently given 4 fluids, not as a luxury but as a means of reviving them after the physical toll of what had happened, as if they had been through some sort of arduous marathon. No questions, no hesitation. Diddy's longtime ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura filed a lawsuit last year, exposing a dark side of Diddy's world that no one could ignore. It was a well-oiled operation that allegedly included secret recordings of these chaotic encounters. The worst part was that those tapes were used as leverage, and if the women didn't comply, they faced blackmail. The lawsuit allowed federal authorities to look more closely into Diddy's actions, but as the case progressed, it became evident that the allegations were only the beginning. The allegations claimed that Diddy would guide Cassie in intimate encounters, even instructing her on how to touch a sex worker or apply oil to her body while monitoring and controlling the situation. Prosecutors said Diddy used violence, guns, kidnappings, and even arson to keep control, but it wasn't all parties and manipulation. One of the most disturbing pieces of evidence came to light in the form of security footage from a Los Angeles hotel hallway in 2016, which showed Diddy kicking, physically abusing, and even throwing a vase at Cassie. Stevie J, a longtime associate, claims that Diddy's erratic behavior that night was allegedly driven by drugs, but this was only one piece of the bigger picture. In the most recent development in Diddy's shocking legal battle, new allegations have emerged that paint an even darker picture of his behavior. The footage stunned everyone who saw it, marking a turning point in the case. As the stakes rise, Diddy's legal team is now going on the offensive, prepared to fight back with everything they have. Court documents reveal a chilling claim that Diddy once held a woman over the edge of a balcony during a heated argument. It's the kind of scene straight out of a thriller, a nightmare that no one could have imagined. Leading the charge is Mark Agnello, a formidable criminal defense attorney known for taking on the most difficult cases. He has represented some of the most notorious people in recent history, such as the notorious farmer Bro Martin Scray and the controversial Nim cult leader. However, Agnello's team isn't just him. Is supported by a formidable team of attorneys, including Tenny Gallo, Alexandra Shapiro, and Brian Steele, whose name is well known because he recently assisted rapper Young Thug in navigating his own highly publicized case, who isn't playing around. They're here to fight. Tension is rising as his trial approaches, just 4 days away. Diddy made a crucial court decision earlier today when he turned down a government offer to enter a guilty plea, which could have avoided a lengthy prison sentence. When the judge asked him directly, he stood up in his beige jail uniform and said, "Yes, I do, Your Honor." This confirmed his intention to fight the charges. The trial will go forward, and it will be a spectacle. One that could reveal how one of the most powerful people in the music industry allegedly used his wealth and fame to manipulate and exploit both women and men for decades. Diddy is adamant about standing his ground despite the prosecutor's warning that a guilty plea could result in a shorter sentence. As the hearing progressed, all eyes were on Diddy's family, who had always been by his side during previous court sessions, but were conspicuously absent today. Diddy is facing a number of charges, including racketeering and coercing people into taking part in the infamous drug-fueled freak-offs. The case depends on whether these allegations are proven in court. In a startling new development, Diddy's defense team is adding 2 more attorneys to his roster just days before his high-stakes trial begins. His sons, mother, and sister were not present. The emotional toll of these proceedings is starting to show. But for now, the focus is on the trial, where the most crucial phase begins, the jury selection. One legal expert called this phase the most critical because it could set the tone for the entire trial. Despite the seriousness of the situation, Diddy has entered not guilty pleas to all charges, leaving the public and legal experts wondering just how confident he really is. The stakes are extremely high for the 55-year-old music mogul, who could spend the rest of his life in prison if found guilty of sex trafficking and racketeering. But here's the killer. The big question everyone is asking is, why did Diddy reject a plea deal that could have spared him a much shorter sentence? Is there a twist in this story that could clear his name? Or is he just putting all of his money on his ability to persuade a jury to agree with him? What will his defense actually argue in court? According to his lead attorney, Mark Agnello, the defense will be sticking to the claim that everything Diddy did was consensual. Agnello contends that Diddy did not coerce anyone into engaging in any illegal activity, but rather led what he refers to as a wild swinger lifestyle, in which all of the adults involved were fully aware of what was happening and willingly took part. In other words, there was no criminal activity, only a choice of lifestyle. The defense is putting a lot of effort into the argument that Diddy's public image is unfairly shaped by the media, and that he's being portrayed as a criminal, when in reality he's just an imperfect man. Agnello dismissed the infamous hotel video with his ex-girlfriend Cassie, which has garnered a lot of media attention, as nothing more than a toxic argument between 2 people in a long, dysfunctional relationship, not a criminal act of human trafficking. What do you think? Will he be able to convince the jury of his innocence, or will these charges bring him down for good? Share your thoughts below and remember to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on this explosive case. Agnello even acknowledged that Diddy is not perfect, but he insists that doesn't make him a criminal. Diddy is now preparing to take the stand and give his side of the story, and his legal team says he's ready for this fight and he won't back down.